If Democrats continue to hold this critical relief hostage, I will act under my authority as president to get Americans the relief they need. And what we're talking about is deferring the payroll tax for a period of months till the end of the year, and I can extend it at a certain period. Hopefully, I will be here to do the job. We're going to do the job. We've been doing a job like nobody could. Nobody would, actually. And so we're going to have the payroll tax go till the end of the year, and it'll be retroactive to July 1st. So we're going to go back to July 1st, and it'll go to the end of the year, payroll tax. At the end of the year, it may be extended. We're going to enhance unemployment benefits through the end of the year. So unemployment benefits will be, that's a big one, will be brought out to the end of the year, and defer student loan payments and forgive interest until further notice. So students who are paying student loans, and in many cases they're not even allowed to go back into their colleges, extend the eviction moratorium. We will be extending that so people aren't evicted. Not their fault.
Jim, can you just lay out the president's, what he is saying the plan from his side is? He's not actually enacting executive action. He's just saying what he will do if Congress doesn't reach an agreement. Is that correct?
That's what it sounds like so far, Anderson. Based on the president's remarks, he is laying down essentially another warning to Democrats up on Capitol Hill that if they don't come to an agreement with White House officials on some kind of way forward on a coronavirus relief bill, that he's going to take executive action. He's talking about suspending the payroll tax that Americans pay in their paychecks. He's talking about extending these enhanced unemployed benefits, and as well as putting in place some kind of moratorium on evictions in this country. It's unclear how the president can do any of those things through executive action, which may be one of the reasons why he didn't take those actions this evening. But it's worth pointing out, Anderson, the president was continuing to engage in this, sort of magical suspension of reality during this press conference. He was talking about how the virus is disappearing. He was describing testing in this country as tremendous, even though people wait, sometimes a week or longer to get their test results for the coronavirus, and so on. And so I think, Anderson, we're seeing more of the same from this president. It's another day that ends in Y.
Maggie, I'm wondering what your reactions to the press conference is, because, again, it seemed like starting out it was going to be the president actually announcing some executive actions. Now it just seems like it's him, and again, it's kind of unclear, him just threatening to.
Right. He hasn't gotten to questions yet, Anderson. So far, I don't think we've heard anything new from him. He has been threatening to use executive action or presidential authority of some kind to enact measures that would provide relief to people who are suffering because of the coronavirus. But again, it's not clear, as Jim says, what actual power he has to do any of this. I do think there are people who are concerned about, in the president's orbit, about an overly broad use of presidential power. That is not really something that appeals to the president's base of support. And also, look, I don't know what a great image it is if you're the president. This conversation is going on in Washington. You're condemning leaders who were still in Washington having these conversations. The president has basically been a bystander for most of these discussions, not involved. And now he's delivering a speech or a press conference or whatever this is from his private club with members looking on. Some of them are holding glasses of wine as people are facing a threat of eviction and getting laid off. I understand that his aides want him to seize on what they see as presidential moments. I'm not sure this is the way to do it.
And Maggie, one of the things he's pushing is the payroll tax cut, which is not something really Republicans, certainly Democrats don't want, and there's not a lot of fans among Republicans on Capitol Hill.
Anderson, that's exactly right. This is not something that Republicans have wanted. The president has tried to foist this on Republicans for many weeks now. There is not an interest in it among the Republican caucus. And it really does speak to the fact, again, as I said, the president has been sort of a bystander to most of these negotiations, but he's also separate from his own party in terms of these negotiations. Something that he wants, a moratorium on evictions, I think will appeal to a lot of people. And I understand why he is pushing that, but that wasn't part of the Republicans' initial offer.
Jim, the president is saying Congress needs to act. The talks have collapsed, been no progress. Where do negotiations go from here?
It's a very good question, and I'm just hearing from a White House official here in the last couple of minutes, Anderson, that the president is not expected to sign any kind of executive actions this evening. And so it is essentially a continuation of the threat of executive action. He did say he was going to take some executive action later on next week with respect to health care, saying he's going to sign an executive order mandating that insurance companies cover people with pre-existing conditions. Again, it's one of those situations where we're going to have to wait and see if that's ultimately what the president really does end up doing. But in terms of where they stand right now, I mean, Democrats up on Capitol Hill, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, they came out of those talks essentially saying that they're potentially $1 trillion or more apart from White House officials. The White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, if there's anything that they agree on this week, they agree that they're very far apart. And so while, the White House wants what they call more of a skinny agreement, which is basically extending these enhanced unemployment benefits and that sort of thing, Democrats would like to see aid to states and counties to help pay for getting kids back to school in a safer way and so on. And the president has dug his heels in and said, no, he doesn't want to cover that sort of thing. One interesting to talk about, Anderson, just to pick up on what Maggie was talking about in terms of this concern about the president taking executive action, you'll have to go back, Anderson, and look during the 2016 campaign. Then candidate Trump went off on then President Barack Obama for taking executive action on a whole slew of issues, including immigration. And so to some extent, if the president decides to do this, he is going to look like a hypocrite on that issue. Andrew.
Yeah, although Maggie, I mean, the number of things there that have been hypocritical obviously is quite long. But these alleged executive actions, he has already done a number of executive actions, and to Jim's point, he and frankly many Republicans at Capitol Hill, of course, when President Obama was doing executive actions, were outraged.
I guess I don't understand how the president thinks that he's going to help the court cases that have been taking place related to the Affordable Care Act and pre-existing conditions and whether those should be covered, as he's then going to sign an executive order saying they should be covered. These executive orders that he keeps talking about signing, I will say with the exception of the ones related to tech platforms that came yesterday, those did have a little bit of meat on the bones, it seems. But in general, these have been, oftentimes things that he has signed and they haven't had much by way of teeth. I think that if you are the president, and I understand, again, as I said before, why he is pushing an eviction moratorium. I understand why he's doing it. He's a former landlord, current landlord, frankly, never divested. So I understand why he is saying that. But if he doesn't actually go through with it, if you don't give relief to people and you are holding this out, that is potentially going to rebound. And for some of his more conservative supporters, to your question, who don't like federal government overreach and objected to Obama using executive authority, I understand the president has often flip-flopped on things, but his voters might get tired of it. So we'll see.